Got my coffee and today's guest here with me, so we're ready to roll. Welcome to the Circular Coffee Break podcast, where we will be talking about everything circular and beyond. Now, let's get started. My guest today is actually a true circular activist and changemaker. So he's practiced circular economy, sustainability, and business for over 10 years and is now an active innovator who actually drives growth and circularity with both public and private organizations. He recently returned from the World Economic Forum in Davos, where he has been leading an Davos Summit Climate Solutions program and was on a panel with His Excellency Mohammed Yunus. I'm really looking forward to talk with him about all of that, but also about all of the things he's doing around circularity, as that is a lot of different things. Welcome to the show, Harald Friedl.
Hello, I also have my coffee and thanks for having me. Absolutely, we made it happen finally.
Yes, perfect, absolutely, and great that you are able to join fresh from Davos, and we will definitely be talking about that. But maybe to get us started, for those listeners not familiar with you and all of the things you do around circularity and more broadly sustainability, could you briefly introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, in the last years, I've been focusing on circular economy as kind of a future that I want to work towards. Gives me a lot of meaning every single day because I was always trying to find out how can I best spend my time on this planet and to move from where we are now, mainly in a linear world, to a circular world has become or is my passion. I'm trying to do this wherever I am and with whomever I am. And I've done this in different capacities. Now, as an advisor with the recently relaunched Circular Economy Innovation Agency, I think I'm very much about innovation transformation. So I'm doing this with clients in the public and private sector, including the UN. I've been doing this as CEO from 2017 to 2020 of the Amsterdam-based do tank or purpose consulting company, Circular Economy, where we're with 90 people, we're advising businesses and cities and governments to turn from linear to circular. And I had the distinct honor to serve my own government as circular economy accelerator for the climate change and innovation ministry. And so I have seen circularity from a public and from a private sector space. And I was also CEO of renewable energy companies, so also could I say from the business angle. And I think it's the necessary change that needs to happen. You have AI as the main trend, and I hope circularity will pick up with this trend too, and we'll see more of that.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Harald. And I think you are one of the initiators of the very famous Circular Gap Report, which I think has become a de facto standard in measuring circularity now in many economies, many countries, but also industries. So thanks for that. I think that's a very important tool for all of us that are basically working around circularity. Now, as you mentioned, you're a strong advocate for circularity. What inspires you to follow that passion for circularity, and what keeps you motivated to support the transition towards circularity, specifically in times like the current ones where it's not always easy to be a circular activist?
I think it's a big honor to be able to work on it. For myself, it was a bit of a revelation when first came across the circular economy 10 years ago. And things become so logical. I was in the NGO space, in the business space, in the government space, and I was always very turned off by the silo thinking, because generally, as I am as a person, I'm interested to do the right things, and when you're trying to achieve a future where we have achieved more prosperity for more people, that's really an interesting task rather than optimizing for the bottom line. And this is a complicated puzzle to create a society, you might say, that is circular again, but at the same time, it's the most logical thing to do. When people ask me, from linear to circular, I always trying to take a step back and remind us we should be circular right now. There is no, nearly no normal or rational argument to say we want to continue the challenges of a linear world. It has served us in a way, but now in the year 2025, I believe we have enough technical capacity, AI capacity, human capacity, and financial capacity to think how can we use and be in an ecosystem and regenerate an ecosystem by not destroying it, and have a different goal, which is regeneration and having things set up in a circular way. For me, that makes a lot of sense from an intellectual point of view, from a financial point of view, and especially from a human point of view. I want to talk with you about this. How can we create a city where I'm now in Amsterdam? Where do you sit?
We're in Helsinki.
In Helsinki, how can we create there a system that is again fit for the future for a long time to come and does not create negative externalities from a human, environmental, and economic perspective? I think that's very worthwhile living for. It's possible, and it needs one thing that we are not used to anymore. This is true collaboration.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And I fully agree with you. I mean, it does not only make environmental sense, it also makes business sense at the end of the day. If we talk about resilience, if we talk about like operating as a company in today's world, circularity is an important step when it comes to resource efficiency, resource scarcity, and so on and so forth. So it's a logical step. I fully agree with you. Now, you just returned from the World Economic Forum in Davos. Now, what are your main takeaways? Like, what are the most significant sustainability and circular economy themes emerging from Davos this year, and how do they influence like the real world progress? How circular was Davos this year?
One could argue that with the number of private jet flights up by 170%, I think was the latest figure. It is a meeting that is absorbing a lot of energy and capacity from an energetic point of view and also from a CO2 point of view. At the same time, it's one of the few meetings where people are or have come together in the last years to talk about global collaboration. I have decided with my team in 2018 to launch the Circularity Gap Report for the first time there, because I believe at the beginning of the year it's a platform for global collaboration next to, you might say, the COP process, the climate change conference. In the last years, I haven't been attending them for a couple of years, and last year's picked it up again because we co-organize this Davos summit, and there are always very interesting people coming together. This is definitely true. And this time, what was a bit a turn off or disappointing was that it was with Trump inauguration, the main focus was business and business deals, I would say. And as America is maybe toughening up or going in the direction that the Trump administration wants, there is less talk about collaboration globally. I mean, that's what we all see. And on the other hand, you have the big other countries like China and India that are also not so strongly pushing it. And you have the Europeans in the middle. And I would say this was a bit a challenging situation for me, that you do see less inter- joint interests to say how do we tackle the big problems. It's more about creating the business deals. And I would say there's nothing bad with business, but in the end of the day, business will not solve the problems we are facing. And with the circular economy, we're trying to bring both together: the human ingenuity of entrepreneurship and the concerns of a society that wants to live together peacefully and without pollution. So there was a big a sad takeaway. At the same time, meeting leaders like Mohammed Yunus, the special advisor to the Bangladesh government, that symbolizes in a way also a dignified leadership that I'm happy to see, that you're coming across these people that are working between the lines, do give me hope. I think, and we did an interesting backcasting exercise, where are we in 100 years from now? Most people in the room, we worked with about 60 people on that, had a positive view on things, because at some point there will be this roadmap fork in the road moment where we choose either a more climate chaos or we choose better collaboration. There was hope in the room, and we tried to bring it back from 100 years to now. In the next years, what's missing is leadership and the clear narrative. Because if we want to use the available prosperity to fight against poverty, if we want to use the technical advances to make accessible energy, clean energy accessible to all, then we have to have clear steps forward. What about a mechanism that puts every year a certain percentage of global wealth to eliminating poverty? And what about a global council that should take over resource management at some point from a national point of view into a more international arena? These are huge topics, and for this, visions are rare or not existent. And I think for me, the place Davos, not the forum where members paying a lot of money to come together and meet other members, but the forum as a meeting place is invaluable. I not necessarily don't like to go there, but it always sparks interesting collaboration projects. And during the year, in the absence of a functioning multilateral system, it's one of the 2 3 meeting places in a year where this community is coming together. So for this, I think that is very positive, and I've seen some hope, and we see circularity further decreasing. So the situation is not getting better, but consumerism and a fast-paced economy is still in charge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're making some really, really important points there. Because on one hand, since I started to work with circularity now, also more than 10 years ago, I think the term is much more well known now. People know what you're talking about. 10 years ago, you would say circularity, and people would look at you with blank eyes, not really understanding what you're talking about. Now it has basically arrived in the mainstream. People understand what it is, what it means. And at least my perception is a growing number of people are actually willing to take action in that context around the world. At the same time, we see, as you said, the last Circularity Gap Report has shown again that the circularity is moving in the wrong direction and we're getting less circular. So there is a disconnect there.
But we can, my conclusion is we have to work harder on showing it's possible, on advancing. I'm personally very excited about the AI and what the opportunity it gives us. And if you know people interested that would like to work together on AI and sustainability, I would definitely like to do a masterclass on and work on that, because I think that is the total future as one of the avenues to change. AI helps us to change faster, maybe align and learn faster with each other. So that is, I see as an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the next step will then be quantum computing. When you think about quantum computing in the context of material development, in the context of modeling environmental scenarios, different other systemic change scenarios, I think that will then be the next step from there going forward. I fully agree. Now, at the same time, I guess the complexity is increasing, isn't it? I mean, there's so many sustainability trends. I mean, you mentioned across the societal, the economic, the environmental space, and they're all accelerating going forward, be it societal aspects, be it water scarcity, biodiversity, resource scarcity, all of these. How do you see that development and the role of circularity as one of the key enablers that can help with several of these sustainability topics?
I think this is the question, and I think it's a very interesting one. We have unfortunately seen that sustainability has been a bit an empty promise. Now everything is sustainable. We go into shops, we see on packaging something is sustainable. Actually, as a consumer, you hardly believe anymore what you see. We know also from some surveys that often it's on the tags of products. It's simply it's lying. So for me, the circular economy is a more stringent measure to look into where sustainability has been a little bit abused as a system, and we are going to into the greenwashing area. So I hope circularity will be able to deliver a couple of things. Maybe I want to highlight five. One, reduction greenhouse gas emissions. We know cutting CO2 is super important. Everybody focuses on the energy transition, but materials nearly cause half of the 50% of the relevant CO2 emissions, without which we'll never reach the Paris goals. Number two, conservation of natural resources. We are in many sectors running out of them, and the economy does if there is no tomorrow. Circularity can help to preserve raw materials and promote reuse, recycling, and efficient resource management. For me, the ecosystem preservation is really an important part. We see ecosystems failing, New York wildfires, but with circular approaches, we can help maintain vital ecosystems or soil, air, water. Really, 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 really important. I think there was, for example, I give an example in Holland, big topic about agricultural ecosystems. And we know now that circular approaches to food systems in Europe can lead to 80% reduction in artificial fertilizer use. I think that you have to imagine that it's just a different systemic approach where you bring also nature positive elements into it. We can eliminate the negative impact from outside. Economically, a global economy can benefit by 2 trillion annually from more effective resource management. I think in a circular model, that's really, really, really important to bring back. It's an economic model that drives for social and environmental change and impact, but it's rooted in the hardcore operating system, if you want to frame it like this, of the global economy. And and for this, I think the research recently with Holland or Belgium to see how many jobs are circular, it's really important that we keep innovation and job creation very much up the forefront, because this is how, for me, how we can span the left and right tendencies of politics to try to avoid the really tough questions, because I think it's above political fights where we want to go. We want to go into a safe space where nature is still existent, where ecosystems exist, where we have jobs and a green economy. And for this, a circular economy is a necessary ingredient. So that gives me really hope. That gives us a very clear circular strategies are very clear to explain to a kid or a prime minister or a CEO. We just don't have yet the policy framework, the policy environment and rules to support it. But I'm hopeful this change is happening faster and faster. And I know it will be the new normal at some point. Could be far in the future, 10 years, when we have run out of certain resources, or earlier when we are managing to keep care of this or keep that in mind much earlier.
I know that makes perfect sense. I mean, another dimension is the financing, naturally, of this major transition. Are there any innovative financial models or collaborations that you've seen that caught your attention recently that make circularity actually feasible and this systemic change?
What financial models make circularity feasible? This is very interesting because we're all waiting for that. Now, I think I'm often reminded of BlackRock, that has this huge portfolio of trillions under their management, and I think they launched a circularity fund of 30 million, which gives us kind of the comparison. Maybe this is 1% or less, I guess less of the portfolio. But I think, I mean, from a business model perspective, everything as a service model, products as a service model are very interesting at the moment, that will provide or enable a circular economy. Sharing platforms are really coming and are interesting for the future. I think how the world will change much faster will be carbon trading systems. I think this is the big thing, carbon tax. That seems a logical way of integrating external cost into the household, and then having a much clearer and more transparent overview of what we can afford and what we should not afford anymore. And coming from Davos, where I just looked up in 2019, there was a Dutch historian, Rutger Bregman, that said taxes, taxes, taxes. And that's maybe sometimes a bit an easy way of summarizing it, but I think there is a very important conversation to have of redistribution of global wealth. And we need to find, beyond the rich giving money away, a way how can we build a governance system that equalizes and redistributes some of that wealth that I would argue should be there to shape the global common space, rather than ending up in some dynasties that keep avoiding, many of them, over taxation, because they have the flexibility and means to do so. So I think money can play a really important role to turn things around and make that transition possible, because it needs to be public and private sector money that will enable that, as not everything in the current financial system is a business case. That should be one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, you already alluded to AI as one of the enablers of circularity and sustainability going forward. I mean, what are the sectors and innovations you see in that context, be it related to AI or be it in other areas, that will drive the most significant impacts on circularity or also the more broader sustainability agenda over the, let's say, the next decade?
Yeah, that's interesting. I would say one is for me the whole AI topic, and what is feasible with AI. I think many we don't know yet what AI and machine learning can do. I think we are using and seeing this already in the waste sorting systems, where the efficiency is going up by 80%. I mean, that is already happening. AI is also an interesting way of experimenting with and finding out about new materials. I think that is amazing, because we need to, the more we shift into a renewability of materials, I think the better and less leakage we have. For example, keyword plastic. Number two, in Europe, big push, huge push will come from digital product passports. I think that is for me the biggest driver, next to ESIS reporting, I think, and AI in the next years. Because once we know what is where here in the infrastructure and in cities, I think then we'll actually be able to close more loops. A very interesting one also is 3D printing, that allows for certain structures to be much more stable with less input. And the Internet of Things, I mean, that is obviously a great. The more information we have, we are able to optimize for the routes of trucks going to empty bins. And we finally have some information about we have some more a chance to monitor and optimize waste collection. So there's a couple of things that come to mind, be on the technological innovation side. For the rest, I think it's a lot to say about human innovation. How can we better organize ourselves in nation states, in cities, or in value chains, so we make that less wasteful and more resource efficient and circular.
Cool. No, I fully agree on all these different technologies, and I think we see already today that there's startups and companies starting to implement solutions around these technologies. You mentioned IoT, but also in other areas where more and more of these technologies are taking a center stage. Now the coffee is empty, and it's time to wrap up the episode. Now, before I let you go, Harald, maybe let's look into the crystal ball a little bit, and let's put ourselves 10 years from now. Let's say we are in 2035. How do you see circularity at that point in time? Like what has happened? What are the things either resulting from what you've seen in Davos, or all of the other discussions and conversations you're having with different people, with different companies, with public organizations? Where are we in 10 years with regards to circularity?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Obviously, if this crystal ball would only exist, I think I have in a discussion last time, as a wishful thinking, huh? I would hope that we really have, on a local perspective, implemented waste-free municipalities, waste-free cities in 75% of the globe, because at some point the communities need to understand that, need to push the politicians, and a waste-free world will, and hopefully is, in 10 years time, um, a logical thing, and something that we're gonna go back against. um, I hope that we have achieved by then, in 10 years from now, carbon neutral industrial ecosystems. This will only happen if we have circularity at the core of the transition. will not only happen from the energy transition. That's the second one, steel, plastic construction. And a third one that I'm really interested in, that we have a fantastic system around digital product passports, that hopefully in 90% of the products in big industries, we are equipped with these kind of digital passports that enable an efficient lifetime management of the resources. And yeah, I hope that the food system, the mobility system, and the infrastructure system, the way we build these systems, have been turned into, in each country, into 100% circular systems that really look into decreasing the new virgin material use and optimize for longevity and the use of the resource efficiency over a lifetime. And this, I think, would have given us 25%, 30% local circular jobs that are driving this and that keep the communities healthy and together.
Well, I like that vision. I sign up to that vision. I really think if we reach that in the next 10 to 20 years, I think we've done something right. The coffee is empty, as said, and we need to wrap up here. Thanks a lot, Harald, for joining me today. Really good insights from your work and from your discussions.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of the morning.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you listening out there. We hope today's episode, as always, brought some new insights, new ideas, new stories, new backgrounds. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, subscribe, or give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting platform. Helps us to grow the community, to get more people on board, get more people involved in this important transition towards a circular world. And make sure you subscribe, as we have new amazing guests every 2 weeks. Now, the only thing for me left is to thank all of you for listening, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you here at the Circular Coffee Break podcast.